Uh, Welcome, everyone, and thank you for coming to the Artsweek 2025 application information session. We're going to provide some information on applying for the Artsweek Festival of the Arts, which is returning this coming September 28th to October 5th, kind of coinciding with the end of Pride and then coming into Artsweek, so it's very exciting. This is a long-running festival. We're going to get into a bit of the details of the history of the festival, what the application form looks like, who can apply for it, what the process looks like, and all of that. But to get going, we're going to start with territorial acknowledgements. So we respectfully acknowledge that the land on which we work and gather is the traditional territory of the Mississauga Anishinaabe, home to the Williams Treaties First Nations, who have been the stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters for countless generations. We support them in this work, which they continue to this day. We're grateful to be here, and we pledge to listen to and learn from the traditional Indigenous knowledge and ways. EC3 is committed to doing all that we can to further efforts at real truth and reconciliation, which includes providing support to the artistic work of Indigenous artists, examining the ways that we do this, and providing a space and a platform for Indigenous voices to be heard and respected. And that's true in all of EC3's programs, but I think it's especially important in a program like Artsweek, which is so much about the land on which we are, about creating a local festival, activating local spaces, and so considering the history of these lands and the people who occupy it and have occupied it is certainly important in that goal.
My name is Sue Ditta, and I'm the Executive Director of EC3. And I actually was involved in the very first Artsweek, which took place quite a long time ago as part of the celebrations of the 100th anniversary of the incorporation of the city of Peterborough. And there was quite a lot of exciting activities supported by the city that year, all under the theme Imagine Peterborough. And the city really wanted to promote the idea, the knowledge, and the understanding that our municipality, united with East City, had become a real gem in the Kawartha Lakes district and a beacon for the arts. And the festival carried on. I don't know, does it have the exact year there?
It's 2005.
2005. So wow, that's 20 years ago, the last time I checked. And we did take a look around the country and were really excited, to be honest, by a festival we saw in Calgary that featured exclusively local artists and tried to put art performances, pieces, installations, activities of all kinds in the public sphere, outside of concert halls or art galleries where people who might not normally venture into those sanctified art spaces would have an opportunity to see art, and where we could just make art part of people's everyday lives. And I think that theme has persisted throughout the years. The city of Peterborough provides $25,000 each year for 2 years. So when we go to do the festival, we have about $50,000 from the municipality to put towards it. Last year we had a lot more money due to, well, in 2023, due to some good luck with Mary Monsef, our MP at the time, was able to get us some extra money from Canadian Heritage. So this year we have a more modest budget, but we're still really excited about what artists and arts organizations and all of their partners can make happen here in Peterborough. Whether it's at the market, at the lift locks, in Jackson Park, at Artspace, on the streets, Water Street, Hunter Street, Charlotte Street, all kinds of places we'll see art popping up. And tonight we're hoping to show you how to apply for a grant so that you can do a project too.
Remember. And yeah, to explain what's on this slide a little bit, just to give you a sense of the overall festival and how funds are distributed and how programming is set up. So there's a three-part programming model. The thing that we're really focused on tonight is the open call for proposals, where any artists within the community, arts groups, collectives, et cetera, can apply for funding. And then there's also a certain amount of commissioned work, which is initiated by EC3. Sometimes that's reprises of projects. Sometimes there are projects that have started as open call projects, and then everyone just loves them, and so they're institutions, and so they return year after year. The Takeout Poetry Card has been a part of Artsweek a number of times. Porchapalooza. Last year involved the 3C84, is that right? The Charlie Glasspools, which was a reprise of a project from many years ago. And then also there are projects where we bring in a curator. We bring in outside help, someone who has a certain kind of expertise, and ask them to put together projects as well. So there are many different ways to participate, but we're going to focus on the open call, which is the thing that we're accepting applications for.
So what we do the open call for proposals first, and then in terms of commissioned works or curated works, where we sometimes are trying to work around those. So last year there were almost no proposals from visual artists. So I in fact curated a show called Lookout, which included almost all visual artists, well, visual and media artists. So that's where we start. We start with the open call and see what people in the community come up with. Projects can be any time of day or night. They can involve any discipline. They can be interactive or solo performances. They can happen with a partner or on your own. And all events are free to the public. EC3 has staff and volunteers at every event, and we do collect donations, but all the donations go to support the projects. People don't collect their individual donations.
Yeah, and in terms of locations, as we've mentioned, it can take place anywhere. There's a natural tendency for a lot of projects to wind up downtown, because that's where a lot of artists are located and where they naturally think. And those are good as well. We like having kind of this concentrated area of arts, but it is really exciting when we can find newer locations or locations that explore the other wards of the city that kind of get art out there. The overall theme that we use is art in unexpected places, and downtown is often an expected place. And so, we've had on in the parks, on the trails, at the zoo, in the markets, community center parking lots is listed here. This has mobile projects, nighttime projects on streets in the neighborhoods are all a part of it as well. And this reinforces any artistic discipline whatsoever. This is a multi and interdisciplinary festival. We accept all sorts of proposals as long as it can concentrate within an event. Hi there. We also encourage applications from single artists as well as partnerships and collaborations. We like anyone who's bringing in another arts group in order to assist them, working with community-based organizations, ad hocs, collectives, arts organizations, individual artists, etc. And this does also include curated programs, educational programs, and community-based projects as well. This also discusses some of the other priorities of the festival. The festival strives to present projects that reflect and promote the cultural, racial, and social diversity of Peterborough and Canada today. Across all of EC3's projects, we celebrate diversity, equity, and inclusion. This confirms transform and activate city spaces is a good way to consider all of this. Think outside of the box is the final line on that slide. The financial support we should discuss, the Artsweek grants are between $1,500 and $5,000 towards projects. We ask you to submit a full budget for your project as part of your proposal. Artists can also within that seek out other sources of funding as well. If you have private sponsorships or if it's another grant that's coming in, that's great as well. That allows you to do a bigger and better project. And we'll support you in providing other applications. We can provide letters of support, etc. All Artsweek events are free to the public. That's a very basic part of the festival, is that this should be accessible to anyone. And Artsweek does pass around a donation bucket at the events, which goes to support the cost of the festival. We do, it is a requirement of all Artsweek grants that artists are paid, that you pay artist fees. That's an important part of all EC3 programs, but especially of Artsweek. This is, at least in part, a way, Artsweek has been one of EC3's more successful strategies to get money from the city into the pockets of artists, to actually provide financial support to our artists.
It is up to the person who's the main producer or the lead artist of the project to negotiate artist fees with their artists. We can certainly help you find fee schedules at CARFAC or the Writers Union, ACTRA. If your project is going to be a big one, you can look at those schedules and see what kind of fees are normal to pay, and then you'll probably negotiate something with your artist depending on how big your project is, how many times you could put it on. Your project doesn't have to happen just once. In fact, most of them happen multiple times during Artsweek. The weather is usually pretty good when we do Artsweek in the fall. We'll be in a good space in terms of schools. We'll be just kind of getting ready to get kids out and about at things. The one thing we would ask you to keep in mind when you make your application is it does get dark earlier in September. That's the only drawback that we see to doing the festival in the fall, is that if you're outside and doing a theater piece, you've got to take that into account, either with lighting or an earlier start. We try to do it with lighting, otherwise everything ends up happening during dinner time, which is not that great. So,
yeah, there's certainly, like, if people want to apply for nighttime projects, as long as they have a lighting solution, that's completely fine. And this is getting into who can apply for Artsweek. As we mentioned, it's open to collectives and all sorts of organizations. But these are the qualifiers for the lead applicant. There always has to be one person who's kind of the central contact. They must be located in the city or county of Peterborough, including Hiawatha and Curve Lake First Nations. So it is open to people who are outside of the city of Peterborough, as long as you're within the county. But the events themselves do have to happen within the city of Peterborough, and that's because it receives so much funding from the city itself. The lead applicant has to be a Canadian citizen, permanent resident, or person upon whom refugee protection has been confirmed, someone who is essentially eligible to work within Canada. And they have to be presented, as I say, within city limits during the course of Artsweek, though projects can persist past the end of Artsweek, as long as they have an event within Artsweek. This is a bit of a specialized case, but it's worth pointing out early. Sometimes people propose projects that involve working with a specific vulnerable community. Children, people with mental illnesses, people with economic disadvantage, etc. As we said, these can involve community arts projects. In that case, we would require the completion of a police vulnerable sector check, which is something that you can get from the police. It's essentially a background check. And it does cost a bit of money, not a lot, I think $40 or something like that. We can assist with that cost if necessary. And frequently the people who are applying for projects like that are already working with these communities, already have the check, and so as long as you've completed it within the last year, that's absolutely fine as well.
So your project could be music, it could be a visual arts installation, circuits arts. We've had many people spinning from their hair, walking on stilts, all kinds of things. It can be a parade, it can be a performance piece, it can be installation of a garden. We've done great projects with people at the Brain Injuries Association. Their center has a great spaces to work in. It can be in the window of a store downtown. Really, the sky is the limit. And I want to say sky because we've heard mumblings about projections on the Quaker Oats Water Tower and on the Peterborough Water Tower and on the banks. Lester Alfonso did a fantastic projection one year at the library, in the big windows at the library with live sound. So keep in mind, think outside of the box. Our Arts Council is very seriously committed to DEI initiatives, unlike in certain countries of the world that we could mention right now, which consider it a barrier and not opportunity. So if you do dance and you're doing traditional dancing from a culture that is not Canadian, that is a totally eligible project. The jury will be looking at the quality of the project, where it's going to happen, how it's going to happen, and we are wanting to announce that we will be, again this year, having a special program called Hot Spots, which will take place at lunchtime outside of Peterborough Square, and it will feature all DEI and any marginalized arts groups. It's a really great opportunity for emerging artists. We'll do a special announcement around that. It will have a curator, and you can be assured that the jury will have people on it that are knowledgeable about cultural work from many, many different backgrounds, and will be able to assess both contemporary practice and traditional practice.
And that also applies to the application process as well. If there are any barriers in applying for the program due to accessibility needs, absolutely reach out to us at any point, and we'll be glad to assist and to provide resources as we can.
In terms of accessibility, physical disability, hearing impairments, and deafness, we have specialists who help us with that every year, both in terms of grant application and in terms of sites. So we are really proud and honored to have worked with the Council for Persons of Disabilities for many years in Peterborough, and their staff and volunteers will walk every site that's involved in Artsweek before the festival and make recommendations on how we can make that site more accessible. They'll help us identify barriers and how we can overcome them, so that you can have comfort that not only your project would work for people who have disabilities, but would be accessible to people who have disabilities. And as Gabe says, even at the application level, if you need any kind of assistance, let us know. Gabe is particularly experienced and wonderful about helping people.
Good job. Do what we can.
Yeah.
We'll go on talking a bit about the assessment of applications. The applications for this are assessed by a peer selection committee, which we assemble trying to be representative of whatever applications have come in, of the types of communities that are represented, the types of artistic disciplines, etc. And projects will be selected and support provided based on the following criteria, which are, as you can read here, the overall artistic merit of the project, the quality and clarity of the applicant's creative statement and project description, so how well you are describing your own project, the project feasibility, so that's an assessment of the budget and also an assessment of the artists themselves, how well the jury, you've convinced the jury that this is a project that you can carry out. Fit within the festival's vision and purpose, that's going back to the discussions that we were having earlier of the purposes of the festival and having art in unexpected places, etc. And the potential arts awareness and public engagement impact. So how many people are going to come, or how well this is going to engage people in your projects. And then also, of course, the available funds is always a limiting factor in every project. When it comes to jury time, this is exactly what they will be considering. Juries mark each application on a score for each of those criteria, and then essentially we rank them by score, and whoever is at the top wins. There's a certain amount of flexibility within that, but largely it is entirely based on the criteria. We try and be as open about that as possible, and so when you're putting together your application, consider the criteria and consider the argument that you're putting forward to the jury.
Couple of things. Don't ask for more money than those that, was it a $5,000 limit on this one? Yeah. We've found historically, even if we let a project like that come through to a jury, it discombobulates them. They don't know where to position you, and they can also feel nervous about making cuts. We discourage jurors from making cuts except in really rare circumstances. If they think there's a little wee bit they could take off here and there and allow them to fund a whole other project, but that is very, very rare. So be realistic with your budget. And the other cautionary note I would offer is that support material really matters. And we're finding that more and more in all of our programs. These are all competitive programs. We get way more applications than there is money to fund. And I think there might be a tendency in a city as small as this, in an arts community as closely knit as this, to assume that the jury knows your work really well and that you don't have to worry too much about support material. But we're finding when push comes to shove, the jury will go over and over the support material. So take some time if you have to get new photographs or get a friend to do some filming. Give the best support material you possibly can in whatever discipline you work in.
And also on the budget thing as well, I want to say the opposite is also true. Like, don't underestimate your budget either. Like that, as we're talking about project feasibility is one of the main criteria. So if you're trying to shortchange your project in order to make it seem better, please don't do that. Presenting a realistic sense of what your project requires is much better. Even if that means that you're applying for the full amount, it doesn't necessarily mean that a $1,500 project isn't necessarily more likely to get funding than a $5,000 project if the $5,000 project is good and makes sense. And then finally we get to notification. So we will notify you that we've received your application. The jury will be meeting in July 2025, and we'll receive, we'll send you a letter of agreement and an acknowledgement, and then we'll go from there. Now we're getting on to how to apply for Artsweek, the important thing. So if you go onto the Artsweek 2025 website, artsweekpeterborough.ca/Artsweek2025, or just artsweekpeterborough.ca and then click. Read through the full program guidelines. This presentation is based on the program guidelines, but it's good to read the full document so that you get all of the information. The application form is a docx file, it's just a Word document, and so you can download that and write your application directly onto there. And then send the completed form along with supplementary materials in an email to info@Artsweek before the deadline, which is June 20th. This is a slide that's discussing support materials. We already discussed the importance of these a bit before, but we do definitely emphasize that as important. Present the best, put your best foot forward on your support materials, really show off what you can do. Your support materials can also include specific information about the project that you're proposing. If you have plans, if you have a draft, etc., that's good to include as well. We accept support materials of all types, documents, images, audio, and video. We try and include whatever file formats, as many file formats as possible. We try and be very flexible with it. This lists some of the standard formats. For audio and video files, because those tend to be pretty large, I recommend not including those as attachments in the email, but instead uploading them somewhere and giving us a link. That could be something like Google Drive or Dropbox, or you can send us a YouTube link, Bandcamp, SoundCloud, whatever works for you. If you're uncertain about the technical aspects of this, I would like to say that we're not grading you on your technical abilities, and so if you want to send me an early email being like, hey, did this attachment come through, or hey, can you read this file, that's absolutely fine. And if there are any issues with that kind of technical stuff after the deadline, I will contact you and let you know that we can't see your support materials. And then this is a list of all of the sections of the application form. You'll see these on the form itself, but these are the sections that you have to fill out. There's a checklist at the bottom of the form, so once you're done and you've got everything together, still look at the checklist to make sure that you've got everything included as well. The additional forms beyond what's directly on the form itself are your CV, an artist CV, up to 3 pages, and your support materials. There's a table on the application form for your support materials where you can include links and descriptions, and then you can attach the files as needed. And then this is the timeline of deadlines. The important one is June 20th, which is the call for proposals deadline. That's a little bit extended from what was originally announced. Originally it was June 10th, and we decided to give people a little bit of extra time. In July, the results will be announced. And then the actual festival is September 28th to October 5. September 28th, I believe, is the very end of Pride, and so there's going to be kind of a handoff event.
It's a joint project?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is very exciting. And then we'll move right into Artsweek leading to October 5. And then the final one is the final reports, which you fill out after the festival is done.
Gabe, one thing I wanted to say is that your project can cross multiple platforms, be multidisciplinary, be transdisciplinary, be cross-disciplinary, but you have to call me up if you want definitions of how those are different. But you can also cross platforms. So some of our most successful projects have had a live event that a film was made out of, and then the film was shown on YouTube. It could have, some of the great projects were films with live music accompanying them, and then later it was recorded, then married. And so that we had a video or film that we could show on YouTube, or things that happened and were recorded for Trent Radio. You can have multiple platforms for your project.
Yeah, I think some of the most interesting projects that come out of Artsweek are 2 artists from different disciplines being like, hey, let's do a thing together, and finding something that's in between the 2 of them, which is always really interesting.
If you want to do a project that is going to involve partnering with another organization, that's fine, and we're happy to, do some of the heavy lifting on making that happen. We have done projects that took over, I guess it would have been George Street, big, huge dance projects where groups of dancers merged from different parts of the city, and we took over the street, and that required permitting and other things from the city. So don't let your imagination get clamped down on at the beginning. Go for what you want. We'll help you try and get it, and we won't modify until we absolutely have to.
All right, we have a section of tips and tricks. Kate's story originally put together this document. We've kind of been playing with it and messing with it over the years. So these are just some general advice on applying for a grant, and specifically for an Artsweek grant. All right, yeah, we're starting with check the deadlines. Start early, start earlier, start now. These inevitably take longer than you think to put together, and the more time that you have to work on your application, the better. If you have time to show it off to other people, to bounce ideas off of other people, to really think about how best to describe your project and how best to explain it to the jury, that's great. All of these have backgrounds from previous Artsweeks. This was a project that was part of Postcode Tour, which was an Artsweek shift event that was happening in the middle of COVID. It was a partially online project on social media. And this was Sue Lily Dixon putting together a piece on accessibility. Read through all the guidelines, even though it is wordy and boring. Again, just to be certain that you're following what all of the requirements, and that you're putting together something that lines up with the strictures of the program and the goals of Artsweek as well. This is also from Postcode Tour. This was Bethany LeBlanc did a painting kind of the same area. They were multiple artists taking a look at the same area in Peterborough and both showing how it is now and reimagining it as well. It was a neat little piece. I think that's still on Instagram. I think Postcode Tour is still available if you want to look at it. Answer the actual questions the application asks. Be specific. So do read over. Most of the questions have the general question and then kind of in italics some follow-ups, some prompts. Be sure that you're fully answering the question to your ability. This was a project by Wendy Trussler at Artsweek 2016 called Heliotrope, where she was doing wood burning, I think?
Wood burning, journaling on a large piece of wood every day for a few hours.
Doing it at a cafe.
Yeah, at Dreams of Beans.
Yeah. This was from the illustrious Peterborough Square. This was Sorry About What Happened at the Mall. It was a dance presentation. Write drafts away from the application form first and be prepared to write many drafts. This again goes back to the start early thing as well. Pay attention to the evil word counts in your drafts. Save and print. Each section has a word count, so please do pay attention to that. That's the Takeout Poetry Cart, which we mentioned earlier. That's a very long-running project that's been part of Pride and been part of Artsweek, where there's a cart on a bike with a typewriter on it, or a couple typewriters, and poets come on, and you can order a poem from a menu, and they make it on the spot.
A sonnet or a haiku or what?
Nature, or about weather, or about, it's very fun. Be clear and concise. Avoid jargon and art speak. It's often the temptation when you're writing an arts grant to sound very smart, and then the jury reads it and are confused because they're not as smart. Try and really explain yourself very well as much as you can. This is Sean Fua out back of the Theatre on King. This is another in the middle of COVID, and we couldn't be inside, so we set up chairs and a microphone in the parking lot and had a poetry day. It was very nice. And this is Portrait-Palooza, which is one of those Artsweek institutions. There's always, they pick a neighborhood or two sometimes, and set up a bunch of musicians play on porches, and people can wander around from porch to porch throughout the neighborhood and listening to music, and you've got this like gaggle of people. It's very fun. It encourages you to get help and get feedback from people. Get someone else to look over it, see if they understand what you're saying, see if you've made any mistakes that you haven't noticed yourself. This is talking about the budget. Don't be afraid of the budget. Be precise. As your math teacher says, show your work. Just make sure that you're fully explaining what your project requires and all the different pieces of it. The budget form is a little bit simplified this year. If you've applied for EC3 projects before, it has fewer categories, just because people were getting confused about like which section something should go in. But just make sure you're fully describing what you need for your project. This is again back to Postcode Tour. This is another Bethany LeBlanc. Be forthright. Don't pad your budget, as I said. Don't make claims or promises you can't meet. Don't underestimate the time and resources requirements. Document your need. Again, these are going to be artists who are going to be reading over your application, so they will at least have some sense of how these projects go and what's required for them, and so they will understand what your needs are, even if don't underestimate, I suppose is the takeaway from that. And this is the flying canoe. This is at the Canoe Museum. They were suspended from the ceiling. It's this metal canoe thing. It's really neat. Double check everything. Your budget's balanced. Your expenses and your revenues have to line up. And your revenues are generally going to be fairly simple because there's no ticket prices on this. But if there's anything beyond the Artsweek grant itself, donations that you're bringing in, private sector donations, grants, etc., make sure all of that lines up. Does your budget match your narrative, a single story? Have you used the checklist, and is the information accurate and up to date? That in particular applies to artist CVs. A trick is that we found that sometimes people have a CD and so they attach it without realizing that it's their CD from 3 years ago, and it doesn't necessarily look great to a jury. I mean, it's okay for a jury if you haven't done much in recent times. People take breaks for various reasons, but if it's very clear that you just tossed in an old document without paying attention, that does not look great to a jury. And yeah, contact us if you have any questions, especially if you require special assistance to fill out the application. But if anything is confusing or you've got any questions, contact us. We've got our email address there. Phone number is on the website as well, artsweekpeterborough.ca. Yeah, we are here to help.